Recently, a highly unbelievable case of fraud has been widely discussed on the internet in mainland China, but all related reports have since been deleted. The main instigator behind the fraud turned out to be the municipal government of Yangzhou City, Jiangsu Province, which involved the wages of thousands of migrant workers and hundreds of millions of project funds. Recently, NetEase and other websites in mainland China reported on a nearly unbelievable fraud case. According to the reports, in 2020, an individual claiming to be a Yangzhou businessman approached three Shanghai engineering construction companies and convinced them to take on the renovation project of an old residential area in the Jiangdu district of Yangzhou City in Jiangsu Province. The individual charged the companies tens of millions of yuan as intermediary fees. However, by the end of 2022, when the renovation project covering 1.8 million square meters across over 40 communities in Jiangdu district was almost complete, the companies were told that the government had no record of the project and they had been scammed. According to Mr. Gu, Mr. He, and other individuals in charge of the construction project, they assumed control of the renovation project for the old community in Jiangdu district in 2021. From that point forward, they have been covering the cost of various materials and prepaying the wages of workers, as they believed to be a government-run project and were eager to execute it to the best of their ability. After incurring expenses exceeding 100 million RMB, they were no longer able to make further advance payments. When they attempted to negotiate project payments with the relevant departments, they were informed by the head of Jiangdu district, "You met a scammer. Our government has never entrusted you to renovate the old community." In May 2021, the launch event of this project was attended by the director of the Jiangdu District Government Office and head of the Old City Renovation Project, Ms. Sun, and the deputy secretary of the Jiangdu District Committee and deputy head of the Old City Renovation Project, Mr. Gao. The construction contract was signed with each residential precinct and property managers. Throughout the construction period, the residential precinct and property managers frequently visited the site and presented awards and gifts as a token of their gratitude. However, after over a year of construction, when they requested partial payment, they were informed that they had fallen victim to a fraudster. This outcome left Mr. Gu and Mr. He feeling overwhelmed. They then embarked on a quest to defend their rights, seeking assistance from various avenues. However, instead of receiving support, they encountered interference and threats from law enforcement in multiple jurisdictions in the name of maintaining social stability. More than 1,000 migrant workers who were under the employment of Mr. Gu and Mr. He eagerly awaited their wages in order to return home for the Chinese New Year. Along with Mr. Xiao, Mr. Huang, Mr. Wang, and other, Mr. Gu and Mr. He wrote an open letter to the media entitled "Yangzhou Jiangdu District Urban Renewal Project leaves more than 1,000 migrant workers with no hope for wages." The letter was widely circulated and shared by various online media starting on December 16, 2022. On the afternoon of the same day, Mr. He received a call from a deputy chief of the police station in Xianyu Zhen in Jiangdu district, who threatened to arrest individuals involved. This greatly frightened Mr. He and the others. In order to verify the authenticity of the incident, a Chinese media inquired with the Yangzhou Municipal Committee and soon received a reply. Relevant procedures have been initiated to deal with the situation. However, according to several representatives of the migrant workers, the authorities in Jiangdu district are supposedly holding discussions on the issue of construction funds and the wages owed to the migrant workers. Meanwhile, a deputy chief of the police station is secretly encouraging the migrant workers to confront their boss. It is evident to everyone and anyone with common sense that the authorities have no intention of resolving this issue. According to the lawyers, the fact that district leaders attended the project's launch ceremony and that the safety agreement signed by the residential communities were as obtained during construction, as well as the fact that the construction lasted for nearly 2 years, should have made the government departments aware of the renovation in over 40 districts. Hence, they should have carried out their respective supervisory responsibilities. The incident was initially posted by Kai Lei, a Weibo blogger with over 2.11 million followers that follows social events. The screenshots of Kailei quickly spread through mainland social media. Many believe the incident to be quite bizarre. In typical fraud cases, a scammer usually only obtains a deposit for the project and then runs. However, in this case, it is speculated that the fraud was committed because of a shortage of funds within a local government. Despite this, the renovation of the residential communities was deemed a political task and had been completed regardless of the financial situation. As a result, the authorities allegedly contracted a few casual workers to scam the out-of-town construction companies. The government gave green light throughout the 2 years of construction, but at the checkout it became a fraudulent project, and the several casual workers hired by the government ran away. It's surprising that the project was carried out without proper documentation. The Quality Supervision Bureau is very strict in terms of collecting money and imposing fines at every step. Every stage of the construction must be approved by the government. If the construction team was unaware, wouldn't they have sought support or clarification? It seems unlikely that the project could have progressed without proper approval. After reading your tweet and the attached picture, my initial response was that someone had made this up. So I searched it up and the results are as shown in the attached picture. But unfortunately, all the links have been deleted. This one could definitely be the #1 fraud in the history of mankind. There are also people who raise 5 doubtful points indicating the Yangzhou City government has an unshrinkable responsibility in the incident. Number 1, the renovation of more than 40 residential communities is a huge project in full view of the public. The construction lasted for 1 year, involving rain and sewage diversion, facade renovation, pole line sequencing, and other projects. The number of departments involved is beyond imagination. It is very difficult for just a residential community to arrange this. Generally, it would be reported to the city bureau leaders for overall coordination. This is a level of capability a scammer must possess in order to succeed. Wouldn't the government notice such a big movement? If it was found to be a fraud, it should have been stopped long ago. Number 2, before construction, contracts might have contained various bidding documents, design and survey drawings, project approval reports, and construction permits. Even if the scammer has falsified all the necessary documents, the construction companies would have still needed to engage in discussions with the designers and address any technical issues that arose during the process, which would have been identified by the designer. How is it possible the scammer also knows the technical details unless they even defrauded the designers altogether? Number 3, since it is a scam, then why did the local government media report the news of the old city renovation unless there were 2 renovation projects? Here is the media report issued by Jiangsu District's official media outlet, Jiangsu Today. There is also a report from the official media outlet Yangzhou Daily about the transformation of the old city district in Jiangsu. Number 4, the head of the construction company said that in May 2021, the project also held a special launch event in which several prominent figures of the district attended. The project was initiated after receiving approval from the leaders of the residential community, the district property managers, and the signing of construction safety agreements. It would be beneficial to publicly release photos of these individuals and determine whether or not this is a scam. If it is found to be fraudulent, all parties involved should be held accountable and face arrest. Number 5. Even if the head of the construction company or the migrant workers did not know the local government officials, wouldn't the residential community leaders know? It is reported that during the construction process, not only the residential communities and property department kept in touch with the construction company, but also several residential communities sent recognition awards to them. Even if it is discovered that the project is fraudulent, the local government cannot simply turn a blind eye and must take responsibility for their part in it. In recent years, due to COVID-19, the Chinese authorities implemented a 3-year dynamic zero-COVID policy, and the frequent lockdown of cities and citywide PCR testing has caused much suffering to the people and has crushed the economy. Local governments have to bear the large cost of PCR testing in the midst of a real estate downturn, and many are already suffering serious deficits. In Jiangsu Province, where the above scam occurred, the homes of some civil servants were recently raided and forced to pay for the local government's financial shortage. Recently, someone asked on the popular Chinese Q&A website, Zhihu, have you experienced a moment that the political circles is shrouded in darkness? The answer of an anonymous user triggered waves of discussion, but has already been deleted. The local government in Jiangsu Province faced financial difficulties and resorted to raiding the homes of civil servants in the middle of 2022. The city, in conjunction with the County and District Discipline Inspection Commission, formed joint working groups to investigate instances of civil servants engaging in additional work outside their official duties. The unlucky ones that were investigated initially throughout the Discipline Inspection Commission came to boost their performance record, and after realizing the real reason they were there, the workers were quite cooperative and intended to pay the penalty. However, the fines imposed by the Discipline Inspection Commission are staggering. County-level workers were faced with fines ranging from 600,000 to 700,000 RMB, while higher-level officials were required to pay a shocking 1 million RMB with no room for negotiation. The fines had to be promptly transferred to the local government's account and the receipt presented to the Discipline Inspection Commission to resolve the case. The civil servants who were investigated later realized that they were being used as pawns. Each government department had 5 to 6 people who were caught, and some had up to a dozen. There is a rumor that the city confiscated 2.5 billion RMB in one swoop. This netizen said that it was an eye-opener even for someone who had been in the workforce for over 30 years. Specific means used by the government including looking back at 20 years of bank transactions and e-transfers, and some even check the accounts of their wife and children and require them to explain any income that is not salary. Then a penalty estimated is reached based on the family's financial situation. It was clear that the raids were motivated by the government's desire for financial gain. The individuals who were penalized were in fact the backbone of each department, and their offenses were limited to illegal employment rather than corruption. Consequently, no one was dismissed or demoted as a result of the investigations. The netizen also said that the local government's action were driven by an unprecedented level of financial pressure. Take a county under the jurisdiction of the city as an example. The GDP is over 100 billion, and urban investment bonds account for about 40% of the GDP. But urban investment is something that has only emerged in the past few years, and local governments have been borrowing on a large scale before that. All schools, hospitals, and major departments have borrowed money. An accountant in the local bureau told him that the county's debt is at least 200% of GDP, and the urban investment bond is the last straw. Finally, the internet user mentioned a phenomenon similar to the above-mentioned Yangzhou fraud incident. A certain town wanted to start a construction project, but the town did not have enough money. It was still forced to start the project and ended up being a free ride. The construction team couldn't get any money, so the town had no choice but to withdraw. They then found another construction team to continue the cycle. When they have exhausted the local ones, they went to Guizhou and Yunnan province to fool the out-of-towners to do it. In the end, the project went through 8 construction teams with an average owing of 300,000 RMB for each team, with one company being owed 10 million. In the end, 6 construction teams collectively went to the county to protest.